Hi guys, this is Brittany Lewis. I am artist, illustrator, and designer here in the United States. And this is my interview for the Secret Society series. So the first question is, tell us about your inspiration that drove you into art. How did you start? I have always been an artist. I've always been into artwork. My earliest memory of creating something was maybe 3 or 4 years old, and it's been nonstop ever since. If I wasn't reading a book, I was drawing on all of my school paper and getting in trouble, the whole deal. And so that's how I started. As far as my career goes, after university, in university I studied to be a graphic designer, and after I left university or college, I just did that professionally for a few years. I was a professional graphic designer, and here in the last 5 years I have been a freelance artist and illustrator as well. And so I do portraits, I do comic book covers, I do children's books, illustrations, you name it. If it's art related, I've probably done it. So it says, who inspires you to push the boundaries like you do in your illustration? Both my son, who is now 5, and my husband are the two driving forces as far as pushing the boundaries. For my son, right now he's at an age where he's into superheroes, and where it matters more than ever that he sees images of people in greatness that look like him. And so I find that it's my job to create those people. And my husband is always the driving force to making sure that I achieve my best. I do my best. So the next question is, what have been your biggest challenges you've faced as an illustrator? Right now, my biggest challenge is finding a balance between fan art, which is what I sell most of, and original pieces, which is what I am, closest related to. So most of my artwork is shown in the arena of a comic book convention or a comic book expo. And so I'm always like sort of tailoring my setup to meet the crowd. And so I think that it's important. It's something that I'm working on this year in particular, is sort of finding the balance between the fan art and original art. So you have to give them what they want so they learn to want what you have to give. So the next question is, what have been your most memorable projects and why? The first thing that comes to mind is the first time I read a children's book that I'm supposed to be illustrating that is based on my son, to my son, and he enjoyed it. So that was certainly one of the most memorable things. And for that one in particular, I'm in the illustration phase, so I'm really excited to see his reaction to seeing himself in a book. Have you created any of characters of your own? If yes, tell us more. If no, why? Yes, I have created characters of my own. There are 2 in particular that come to mind, and both of whom are children's books characters. And yeah, they pretty much travel the world in search of monuments and things and people that they can relate to. They have made a mark on history that you rarely hear about. And so those 2 in particular. I'm also am in the conceptualizing phase of a graphic novel, and that will have a female lead. And so yeah, those are a couple of the characters that I've come up with or worked on. Do you have any advice for young illustrators out there? Yes. The biggest piece of advice, well, there are 2. One is to practice every day. And the second piece is to never give up. And they go hand in hand, because people will try and project their own expectations onto you, whether they want you to be, whatever they want you to be. If it's something that you enjoy doing, whether it's painting, drawing, singing, sewing, whatever, if it's something that makes you happy and it inspires you, continue to do it every single day, no matter what. What do you think about the comic book industry here in Africa? I think that having a comic book industry in Africa, no matter what country on the continent of Africa it is monumental. And the reason that is because it is so important to have a person in the role of greatness, whether it be fictitious hero, whoever, villain, whatever. who looks like you I know it gives me a sense of pride. And for the children that are coming up today, for them to be able to see heroes and princesses and mythical creatures and deities and their ancestors and all of these different people in their image is phenomenal. And not only for the Africans who live on the continent today, but for those of us who have been displaced due to historical circumstances. And so that's so important. And it's like to say representation matters. And there is nothing like having or looking up to someone who looks like you. And instead of being just a, lame sidekick or whatever, with the focal point in a lot of these comics. So I think that's awesome. Let's see. Tell us about your art process with screenshots if possible. My art process, well, there's several different types of artwork that I do. But as far as the comic book related stuff, the fan art related, and even some of the original fantasy art, the process is pretty easy, pretty simple. I start with a rough sketch. It's usually just enough information for me to articulate an idea. After I've made that sketch, I take it into the computer and I create a value painting, which is pretty much a black and white painting, but it will be detailed enough that when I move into the next phase, I don't have to do a lot of corrections. And so the third phase will be the coloring phase. And basically what I do is to each element of the picture, if it's a different color scheme, I add a gradient map. And I do all of this in Photoshop. And so I add a gradient map, and which gives me a tone to the piece, or a tone to the person or whoever or whatever. And after I've done the gradient map, then I add details and do any color corrections or adjustments to the picture. And after that, it's pretty much done. What was your favorite cartoon or comic growing up? What are they now? My favorite cartoon, and there were quite a lot of them growing up, was probably X-Men. Specifically Storm from X-Men, because that was the first time that I'd seen a superhero who looked like me. Regardless to what, she was the person that I identified with. And so X-Men played a big part in my childhood. Also liked cartoon series like Doug and Rugrats and stuff like that I grew up on. And even then, now I like most of the Hayao Miyazaki films, which are the like My Neighbor Totoro or Spirited Away. I also like Kirikou, which is awesome. Yeah, so those are the ones that I am most drawn to, mostly because there is so much attention to detail, especially with the Ghibli films, which is the Totoro, and it's so very artistically done that that's what keeps my attention and what I look at. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for the opportunity. If there is a Comic-Con in Nigeria, let me know. I will be there in a heartbeat. Y'all can fly me out. I love some jollof rice. So thank you so much. I'll talk to you guys soon. See you.